plural. Okay.
And we are live as Mike tries to solve the big mystery of the banners. He's trying to catch him out a little bit there.
There we go. We are live.
Aaron James Shook is with us. Is it Aaron James Shook or Aaron James Hook? That makes more sense.
Aaron James Hook. Yes.
All right. Yeah, that makes more sense. All right.
He is an employee of RDG Books Press, I do believe.
All right. You got him on the clock, Rod?
He's actually an executive officer of the company. He's COO of the UK operations.
All right. Nice. You're international.
Right. Yep, we're getting there. It's a work in progress, but
it's like midnight in the UK. That's not a man. You need to hold out more money, Aaron. Midnight. Come on now. Rod, why don't you step up to your microphone, tell us who you are and what it is that you do and what you write and all that.
Well, I'll try to be concise. I'm Rod Gilley. I'm a writer, editor, and publisher. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. I've been in business more than 30 years, owned 5 companies, kind of have more strength in that area. But also in the writing world, I've been around for roughly 5 years. And I learned fairly quickly, and I picked up on things as I've gone, kind of got a good footing. I feel like I know about 1% of everything there is to know, but that's not bad.
That's a good, humble way to say that, actually. and I'm not sure you ever get far beyond the 1%, quite honestly. So let's start with the writing part, and then we'll move on to the business part a little bit later. How did you, if you've only been doing the writing for 5 years, how did you get drug into that?
Actually, like most any writer, I dabbled with it years and years before. I had written back in the day that it was paper and pencil or pen. I don't know if anybody in the audience knows what those are, but they're a writing instrument and something to write on. There were no computers. And at that time, I didn't even own a typewriter.
Holy shit, you're old.
Yeah, I'm getting up there. But anyway, I started in high school, maybe in middle school. And I just found that I kind of had a little bit of talent. The kids around me seemed to like it. And I wrote poetry and short stories and things like that. I even got published in the high school newspaper. And it accumulated to about 5 years of work, quite a bit. And it was all written on paper, so I didn't have any backup files or anything. So I was hanging out with a bunch of friends, and I was a young single guy. So along comes a young single girl. You can see where this is going. And so we start talking about my writing, and she's like, I'd love to see it. So I was a trusting young man who didn't know much about the world. So to make a long story short, I gave her all of my writing, and I took off and went to work. I worked in a factory at the time. When I came back, she was gone, and so was 5 years of writing. So that really shot me down pretty bad. It was a very long time before I wrote anything else. And many years later, I was hanging out with an author and actually holding his book in my hand, and it sort of lit a fire, inspired me to go for it and try to be a writer for real and for serious. So I first started out as a novelist, writing a novel. And I believe you're a writer when you write your first paragraph and you really mean it, you're a writer. So that started my writing career. And again, I didn't know anything about it at all. So I took off onto social media and I listened to a bunch of experts and well-meaning people and all that sort of thing. So that novel is little square blocks like a child's toy where you would give the little kid the little wooden blocks with the letters on them. Imagine 125 of those blocks in a pillowcase shook all to hell. And that's the state of that novel. I may revisit it one day, but it's a mess. And it's entirely because I didn't have a freaking clue what I was doing and nowhere to turn. And as you guys know, on social media, there's plenty of crooks, thieves, liars, bad people, well-meaning people who just don't have a clue. And for a writer, that's a hell of a hard way to start. So that had a lot to do with me starting my press, to create something that I wish was there when I was starting out.
So when's you have some books out though, right? Now?
Oh yeah. I've published 5 in all, 2 of which are my own work.
Okay.
To start with, I've got my very first book, The Hero, the Fear, and the Date. That was the very first book I ever published. And basically, I did it to prove to myself that I could. I had been published in some anthologies and a few other projects, but I wanted to see if I could do it. So I jumped in and created this little book. And when I say little book, can you see that?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. This thing's about 40 pages and has 3 short stories in it. And there actually have been about 10 video reviews if you go back a few years, and quite a few reviews on Goodreads and Amazon, that it was very well received. A lot of people like the stories. One big honor I've got to mention, I don't know if it'll actually make the cut because I'm me, I'm nobody from Kentucky. But I had the pleasure of shooting a show with a really excellent writer, S.S. Fitzgerald. And in that show, we talked a little bit about this book, and he even said he may read the first story in the book, do a reading of it. Because it's short, you can read it in like 5-6 minutes, And I hope that happens. I'd love to see it. He's super awesome, and who wouldn't like to see their story being read on the internet? That's freaking rocking,
Yeah.
But at any rate, I had some pretty good success with my very first little effort. And The Hero is a story about a cop who's retired and gets himself in a pickle. The Fear, I think, is really interesting because it's about a guy who has, I think it's called nyctophobia, the fear of the dark, and he's going blind. So that's a neat little premise. The Date is a guy that's out on a wild ride with this young lady that he met at a party, and he gets a whole lot more than he bargains for. So that's basically the idea. The idea of this little book, not only to see if I could do it, but I wanted to create something that if you were traveling, you were on a train or a bus or whatever, and you wanted to kill a little time, but you didn't want to break into a full-length novel, or you're at the doctor's office. You can pick up this little book, read the whole thing in hardly no time at all, and get a little entertainment, So that was the idea with it.
So are you still writing now?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
What's next coming out?
A little bit later, I wrote this book. It's a lot thicker. It's a lot more book. I learned a lot on this one. It was a great project. There's 10 short stories in there. Primarily, it's horror stories. There's a little bit of fantasy mixed in there. And I thought that would be a lot of fun to play with. And this one's really interesting because I did every bit of this book in Word. And if you've worked with Word to produce a book, when you get ready to do the formatting, it's quite challenging. But I put all my own work. There's a photograph, or not a photograph, a picture for every story in the book that I did. I put them all in there as well as I did the cover. Now, there has been some statement that maybe that's not the best cover in the world, but oh well, you learn as you go, So those are the 2 books I've published myself. And then I am currently working on a new novel. When I have the time, the press demands a lot of my time. I often work 15 hours a day, sometimes 6 days a week. So getting to my own projects, sometimes it's hard to do. But I am working on probably the scariest story I've ever written. And I think it's going to be great. I hope to get it published perhaps in 2027.
Okay.
So that's pretty much me as a writer.
Now, I before we jump on, EL asked, are you being supportive? Have you been eliminated? Yes. So that EL is the judge badge. Your boy Mike and Roe are judges for the indie blog off remnants. If you haven't checked that out yet, I think he's got a web page now, right?
Yep.
Do we know what it is, offhand?
I don't. It's on Twitter.
It's on Twitter. All right, hold on. I'll find out what it is real
And
quick.
and while you're finding it, I just want to shout out to Lucas Clay, fellow Kentuckian. That's 3 Kentuckians here. Woohoo!
Yay!
And yeah, so they're going to let me be a judge. So Lowe be the author who writes a book over 500 pages that gets assigned to me.
I'll have you know, I told Corey to give you all the books over 500 pages.
Well,
he said yes. So I put the Indie Remnants at WordPress.com. You can go check that out. You can see all the folks who have signed up so far.
In real time, the list.
Yeah. And basically, this is not meant to be so. The brainchild behind this thing. I'll make sure I get his last name correct.
Corey Ratliff.
Yeah. So Corey saw. We've all seen with SpiffBo, 600 people enter, 300 people get in, and so he's not trying to make a competitor to SpiffBo. He's trying to make like almost a second chance kind of thing for the folks who didn't get into SpiffBo can enter into this. And it's 3 books per judge, right? So as many judges as we can have 3 times as many books. It's open until I think it's going to start the 1st of February. So there's still a little time to get them in. But yeah, that's what it is. So it's something new, and I think it'll be pretty interesting.
What are you judging? Short stories, novellas, novels?
Novels. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm actually going to have to read
it. Prepared. It's Dark in Their Minds is an anthology trio that I published. Brand new publisher. Nobody ever heard of me. Small payment to the authors. I got just shy of 300 submissions. So you might find yourself incredibly busy.
Well, no, I mean, if Corey only has, 15 judges, he's only going to accept 45 books.
Oh.
Well, he has more judges, so it's as he gets more books, he's like, another judge can come in now. So, yes.
Oh, okay. Is that it? All right.
So we need more books, people. There were 300 people who didn't get into SpiffBo, so we have like 50 in IBOR so far.
Yeah. It'll be fun.
Yep.
So, and also, EL, I will have you know that I went on my Goodreads page today, and where my book was down at the bottom, it has, if you like that, you will like blah blah blah. And The Incident at Peeling Head was the first book in that list. So that whole system magically works. I don't know how.
My favorite book that EL has written.
Of course. So, Rod, what were some of the our guest who is sitting here very patiently letting us talk about other stuff? You said you've had 5 businesses before. How did you get your start in entrepreneurship and starting businesses, and how did they come and go?
Well, that could take all night. I'll try to cover it as quick as I can. Like a lot of guys our age, I left mom's house young, got my own place, did my own thing. My first job, I was working on a farm, swinging a sledgehammer, breaking rocks for a farmer, and we used those rocks to build a bridge. And I made, I think it was $1.10 an hour. So that was my first job. And I started doing that. I did some other odd jobs. And then I had the good fortune to work with a master carpenter. And he kind of took me under his wings and kind of taught me stuff. I worked with him for about 3 to 5 years. I can't remember exactly. It's a long time ago. So anyway, one day I let my entrepreneurial spirit come to the surface. And I had a sheet of typing paper and $100. I used the sheet of typing paper to brainstorm the name of the company I had in mind. I took the $100 and bought a circular saw. And I literally went to work. And that business went very well. I hired a lot of people. I worked for major contractors around greater Cincinnati. I don't know, Mike, you're from this area. Is it okay to name some of them or should I not?
Sure.
Okay, well, I worked for Drees, Cruise Chance, Freaky Homes. I did all sorts of different jobs for them. Cutout Man, which is sort of the last guy that goes through the house and makes sure everything's perfect. I built a lot of decks. I built a lot of add-ons, custom stairways, custom decks, a lot of that kind of stuff. At one point, I think I had 70 employees, usually had 6 jobs at a time going, and it was pretty successful. So my first, real entrepreneurial move actually went very well. I started getting a little bit older and I started getting a little bit lazier, so I sold out. But I made a nice chunk of change and it was a pretty cool business. I also started the drive somewhere around that same time, had to do something. I started the drive for a local taxi cab company. And so I did that for a while, learned a lot about myself and other people. Believe me, it's quite a good experience. Everyone should drive a cab for a year. Although nowadays they don't exist. Uber and Lyft have put them out of business almost. But yeah, I got into that and one thing led to another and I bought into my own taxi business where I owned it. That was nice because I could pick where I got to drive. I didn't have to go into the worst possible neighborhoods and, risk my life for $10 and that sort of thing. I worked mostly out of the greater Cincinnati airport at that point. And it was a lot of fun and it was very successful. I had several people working with me. It didn't get quite as big as the construction company, but it didn't have to. At that time, especially having the city driver experience, I knew where I needed to be at any given time. So in that time, in the 80s, if you were a taxi cab driver, you wanted to drive nights. You wanted to make sure you were out there a couple hours before and a couple hours after the night closed. Back then, the bars closed all about 2 o'clock or so. And if you knew how to do the job, it was easy to make anywhere from $700 to $1,000 a night. You could do it. And in contrast to that, driving a cab at daytime, you could go to the local Kroger store, load your car up. I think I had a pretty new car. I think it was an 84 Caprice, big trunk, big back seat, lots of room. Fill that thing up with sacks and sacks of groceries, take the person home, carry the groceries up 15 flights of stairs, lay it all there, and get the very kind quarter that they laid in your hand. So yeah, it was very important that you knew when to drive,
Rod, can I just real quick? I want to interrupt just because I want to tell Lucas because he bought a ticket to Lexington Comic-Con so he could see me this year, and I'm not going. But I am going to be there. You said Friday, I believe, is your ticket. I'm going to get a ticket for Friday. I'm going to show up there, and yeah, I will meet you there. But we can talk about it offline. But I just saw your name and said I should probably mention that to him, since he got it to see me and I'm not going. So I will be there.
Checks in the mail, right? Sure.
Yeah, sure.
So RDG Books Press. How did what was the germ of that idea, and how have you gotten that going so far?
Well, as I said, I started out a writer and found my true love. And then I started doing some editing for friends. And then I got the amazing good fortune, just plain dumb luck, of meeting Lisa Kastner. She owns Running Wild Press, considerably larger press, and they've been around for like 10 years. And again, I'll try to keep it short because I do chatter. But anyway, for whatever reason, Lisa thought it was worthwhile to give me a chance. So she allowed me to take the test that her editors have to take in order to become editors. Somehow I passed that test and I became an editor for Running Wild Press. And that was a great experience. I got to work with the brilliant mind of Ben White. He's the best editor I've ever known. I got to meet people like Peter Wright, again, another fantastic editor with Running Wild Press. And then Lisa Kastner herself is an encyclopedia of all things writing. She's a brilliant woman. So that was an incredible experience for me. And being who I am, one thing led to another. I decided to open my own editing service. And that's the oldest branch in my company, RDG Books Full Service Editing. That still exists. Ran that for a couple of years. I've got a good number of writers I've worked with, a lot of good testimonials on my website, very successful and continues to run. And then that just led to kind of almost directly to the press, but it goes back also to my beginnings as a writer, that it was so hard after you already put all this time and effort into writing and working your way through all the BS and crooks, finding some good right people and learning the right processes. I mean, there's so much involved. And then you can't find anything but closed doors, people judging your work who are really not qualified to judge it. And you're getting rejected every turn. And there just doesn't seem to be a chance. And that's not only in the big five and many of the giant, larger presses. Even in the small presses, it can be hard. One of the most ridiculous markets is, in my opinion, this is only my opinion, but I do feel this. I'm not real keen on a lot of the little magazines and stuff you see all over the place. Magazines just about a dead format, in my opinion. And man, they are, I don't know how to put it. They make it very hard, a lot harder than it needs to be, to find your way. That's the best way I know how to say it. I don't know if that makes sense or not. So anyway, I was sitting there being a writer, and I had been to the experiences that I've talked with you about, and I was, talking with Lisa about some kind of big catastrophe happened in the higher up level of the business. I can't think of the name of it. IPG. They're like a producer, and they spread your books around all over the place. I'm not really sure. I'm sorry, I can't remember because I didn't know I was going to go there. I'm not as prepared as I should be. But anyway, we were talking about how one of these big producers or distributor, that might be the right word. One of these big distributors decided to go out of business and left a lot of small presses hanging in the wind. And that's actually a fact that happened a couple of years ago. And the idea struck me, and I don't know enough about that, but the idea struck me, why don't these small presses pull together and create their own distributing ship? And somehow that led to, hey, Rob, why don't you open your own publishing house? Wow. And add that to the fact that I know what it is to be in the trenches and how hard it is to get a legitimate, real start in your writing career. So I put those two things together and came up with RGG Books Press. At my press, particularly right now in horror and fantasy, that's what I publish at the moment, a writer can get a real solid opportunity. And they don't have to have a gazillion followers on social media. As a matter of fact, that doesn't mean anything to my press. You submit your story, and it is given to a member of my acquisition reader team. They do not get your name. They don't know who you are. Your popularity means nothing. If you're a friend of mine, and I know you personally, I won't be your acquisition reader. It'll get passed to one of the others. I do everything I can to make it as fair as possible for all writers, and that the only thing that's really being judged is the quality of the story itself. And so I feel that's the best approach. The acquisition reader comes back to me with recommendations. I trust them. I follow their recommendations. Stories get accepted, and we go along with the process. But the idea is, and I want it to be all the time that I'm the CEO and well beyond my time, I hope, the press will always provide a real opportunity for a writer to start their career or to enhance their career. Like for example, the RDG Books United Kingdom, a writer in the United Kingdom can deal with our COO, Aaron Hook. They're speaking with someone who speaks their language, understands their culture, and understands their market, not some guy in Kentucky. And so that's going to give them a great opportunity, same as I give to American writers and others in our areas. But it gives that writer, even if he's well along in his career, he can join our family, learn from our procedures. We've got some pretty great procedures that do enhance a writer's abilities. And he can expand to our market too. So it's a win-win for both sides. You know, I'm expanding my market. The writers in that market can expand to the United States market. It gives everybody. I love win-win scenarios. So pretty much everything I try to create, it won't exist unless both people benefit from it. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So that's an awful lot of gibberish, and I apologize, but that's kind of how it all came into being. That's what
Okay.
created the press.
EL's got a question for you there. I don't know if you can see it. Have you had much success, and do you have good distribution for your books?
A lot of it depends on how you measure success. If you're talking dollars, well, I'm just at the end of my first year. I'm still in the red. That's very, very common in any startup. That in the first year you're very likely to be in the red. The good news is I'm not very deep in the red, so and I have enough experience in business that I started with a 10-year plan. So a hiccup in the first year doesn't faze me. I'm well prepared to deal with whatever comes. The books have had mixed reactions. Naturally, being some unknown guy from Kentucky, 2 little short story collections. Of course, I haven't sold 1 million copies. They haven't. They more than broke even. I've made a small profit, but of course, those 2 little books are not going to make a fortune. The next projects I published, I hope I'm holding these up in the right order. It's Dark in Their Minds, Volume 1 and Volume 2. They are the first 2 in a trilogy of horror anthologies. That was the next projects after my own books. Fantastic project, a ton of fun. I got to meet a whole lot of authors, some of them pretty well established, some of them brand new authors. They went through the process that I described about acquisitions. Then, of course, everything goes as process. We sign contracts, everything goes forward. The anthologies have been an absolute joy to create. However, of the types of books, short story collection, anthology, novella, and novel, the most expensive one to put together for a small press is the anthology. I've got a lot of money tied up in the anthologies. And it's going to take at least 2 years to break even on each volume. So it's a real investment to do the anthologies. But also, I'm able to put 35 writers on the map. Each of these books I've talked about have gotten 4 and 5-star reviews, lots and lots of great words said by reviewers, video reviewers who have said a lot of nice things about them. Basically, what I've been able to do is put my company, and put our authors on the map. You may not know a lot about us, but more and more people know we exist. And at this first year stage, at the end of the first year, that's exactly what I should be doing. Letting people know we exist. You're not going to go anywhere if they don't know you're here. So
now, to that point, do you find yourself going to Worldcon or your UK folks going to the big London book show or over to Germany or anything?
Well, I see stuff like that in our future. Hi, Mark. I just saw that on there. Mark is a super awesome YouTuber. I don't know why he calls me a legend. It's nice and flattering. But RDG Books Press, most of our first year was a one-man operation. And that operation is funded by my own pockets, and they're shallow pockets. Having a background in accounting and business, I realize I've got to control expenses and watch cash flow. So I invest money in the business where it really needs it to help the business grow, expand, and have good products. I actually strive to have excellent products. And I put a lot of money in that right now. And at this point in our business, I really can't afford to travel about. I've been invited to a few things, but I live in Kentucky, and if there's an event in LA, I just don't have the money to go there.
So how are you finding authors who want to, or promoting your business to authors to join you? What's the uptake like from the author side of things?
If I misunderstood your question, just point it out to me.
Yeah, how are you finding, if you're not going to these things where the authors are, how are you finding authors to join your distribution, your press?
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said earlier, it's dark in their minds. I found 300 authors with a submission call on my tiny website in my tiny, almost completely unknown business. Finding authors who want to be published, that's not hard to do.
Right.
I mean,
How do you find good authors who want to be published?
you'd be surprised how many unknown authors are exceptional authors. I can bring up a case in point. Mark T. Bates wrote The Curse of Six. This is the most recent book I published. It's a little novella. It's absolutely wonderful. He brought to me a very strong story. He put a lot of time and effort into this story before he submitted it. This is our best-selling book of all of them. This book has sold like crazy in the UK. This is an absolutely gripping psychological horror that tells the story of a young man from his childhood to about 25 years old and how he is dealing with a dramatic curse that happened long before he was even born. And this thing is very hard to put down. It's gotten almost entirely 5-star reviews, which scares me because, you know, you look on Goodreads and Amazon and the book's got all 5 stars. Well, he's got a lot of friends, but that's not really the case. These reviews are coming from all over the place. And, you know, I wish I could take a lot of credit for it. I was the editor. I helped him clean it up a little bit. But Mark T. Bates is the author. You may not have heard of him. Give it 3 or 4 years and everybody will know who this man is. He's an incredible writer. And he's one of those unknown writers that come to me because he wanted to be published. And he's also one of the best writers I've ever met. So I don't know if that means anything to you, but it means a lot to me.
So do you do everything from like editing and giving, you know, put together their cover for people and all that kind of thing?
Well, as my business grows, of course, I have to hire people to fill these positions. But like most anyone who opens a business, and even an independent writer, you do everything yourself at the beginning, you know, most of the time. And so I have done everything it takes from hello to marketing after the fact. And so I know every job in my business. And that's actually a good thing. I think a CEO should know every job in his business. He should have an understanding of it at least. So yeah, I handle my part of the acquisitions. I write up the contracts. I've written many contracts over 30 years. I know what I'm doing. I make sure it's very clear. It's very, what's the right word? It's not vague. Everything an author needs to know is there, and it's very clear and very understandable. And of course, I'm right there. They can contact me easily with any question they have. And I encourage them, don't sign that contract at all. Take a year if you want to. Show it to 100 different lawyers. Do whatever you got to do to be comfortable with that contract. Then sign it and we'll go to work. I don't try to shift somebody into a bad contract. Several writers, quite a few writers, have sent me their contracts and asked me what I thought of them. I'm incredibly honest about that because I'm also a writer. I ask myself of these contracts I look at, and I certainly ask myself of my own contracts, as a writer, would I sign this? To me, that's a super important question. And I make sure to get the right answers. So we do sign the contracts. We go to work. If I have editors available, I assign the editor. The editor takes it from there and works with the author. We go through the process. Once all the editing is done, well, before the editing is actually done, we'll get started on cover work. I have cover artists. We collaborate on everything to a much greater degree than most presses. Our writers have a lot of control in what's going to be the end product. The cover, for example, my artist, say I'll pick 3 to 5, 6 artists, and I'll say, here's the concept of the story. Let's see what you can come up with. So these artists will come up with concept art for the cover. Those concept arts, all of them, as many as 10, are shown to the author. The author takes his time, browse through them, see what he thinks, and decides what he likes the best. And then he says, okay, I like this one the best, but I wish the background was shifted. I'd love to change the overall color. Let's take this character out and put a different character in. Let's change the font and move it around. Okay, that author and that artist that created that original concept they work together until they both agree that it's the absolute best cover it can be. Then they present it to me, and I've yet to have a time that I didn't agree with them that they created a hell of a cover. And not, of course, the author pays for nothing. I don't charge an author anything. You know, if I'm publishing their book, everything is free to the author. You know, but the author does have to work. He's got to put the time in for developmental editing, line editing, copy editing, cover, back cover blurb. You guys know all the things that go into making a book. An author has to go into it willing to work, and but he doesn't spend a dime. I won't charge my authors anything. The authors are the most important part of my business. Without them, I don't have a business. Around the first of the year, I increased our royalty by 50% as a demonstration to our authors that they do matter to us. You know, and I don't know of another press that has had such a gesture, but I found at the end of my first year, I was further along than I thought I would be, and I could afford to raise the royalty. So that's just me trying to do business the way I do business. I want everyone that's involved in my company to be very happy and satisfied and know that they are cared about, they are important, and they matter. That's just kind of the foundation of what I've created.
So you're making money basically based on their book sales.
Isn't that what a publisher does?
No, I'm just confirming that, right? Yeah, but that's the only way you're making money is if they sell books, then you'll make money.
Well, no, I've got other divisions in the business. Fedora Art takes everything I just said about creating book covers and offers it to indie authors who don't want to deal with a publishing house, and offers it to authors who want to publish elsewhere. So they want to go to this bigger publishing house that's been around longer, but they want to have a nice cover to take with them. If they want to, they can hire Fedora Art to create that for them.
Okay.
Many writers.
Publishing portion of it, without the rest of it, you're making money based on book sales, right? Okay. So I guess the question then is how does RDG Books Press how do you differentiate your service for getting their books out to the places they need to be to get sold?
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. That is kind of a philosophy question, and you and Mike may totally disagree with what I feel is true, and that's fine, because you can find a number of subjects where a lot of people disagree. All you can do is pick what you believe in and go with it, and that's what I've done. This is, again, a small press, very small staff. We're doing as much as we can today. We'll increase that every day. And so we will do more than what we're doing now. But on any publishing house, all the way up to the top 5, simple fact is a great deal of the burden for marketing is on the writer. Whether they want to know that or not, I don't know, but it's the truth. In this day and age, a writer's got to promote himself and he's got to promote his works. Publishing houses with the budget, they'll do quite a bit to help. Publishing houses with smaller budgets may not do quite as much. And there are publishing houses that do absolutely nothing. To begin with, we publish the books on Amazon, who distributes them in, I think it's 20 different countries. And we publish the books on our multiple websites where customers can buy them from there. We promote them across every major platform. I think I'm on all of them except TikTok. I'm 61 years old. I don't know if I'd be a fit on TikTok. I've been told it's mostly teenagers. I don't know anything about that, so I can't say. But on the rest of the major platforms, I do exist, and I promote everything across them all. And we are looking at various types of stores and things like that, but we're being very selective. Again, a small press has to watch their expenses, and there's a lot behind that that probably isn't appropriate for this show. But I don't like some of the bigger, what do you call them? Is it aggregate publishing platforms?
Aggregators, yeah.
You pay the portions, the royalty shares, whatever each and individual store may want, and you pay a 10% over the top or something like that. And you pay out enough money and you're not making any money. you've really got to control these costs. And that plays well into something that I was talking about a few minutes ago about philosophy. It's, in my opinion, and of course you can say I'm wrong, and who knows if I'm right or wrong, I don't know. But in my professional opinion, based on the years of business that I've done, which includes even things as much as selling brand new Ford cars at dealerships. I used to be a car dealership seller. And anyway, you can sell on one of two things. You can sell on quality or price. I sell on quality. I get exceptional stories that are edited extremely well. It's very hard to find screw ups in our books. I make sure they're very clean. I'm not saying they're perfect because nothing's perfect, but they are very, very well done. I focus everything on the quality of our products. And I honestly believe, like Apple and a host of other companies that became the giants starting out in a garage, it's not really so much a matter of where you sell as it is how you sell. I firmly believe that. And I don't think you have to be in 50 different stores. You have to be in a handful of really well selected stores, and you have to have a strong marketing program because really all the store is the place where the person will go pick it up. Relying on a display, Amazon's gigantic page with 1,000 books in front of your eyes, or a display in the Walmart aisle, 50, 60 books. Relying on that display and people walking by is, in my opinion, an outdated way of you don't want to put all your eggs in that basket. I don't think it's very useful. Again, we are spreading out on small, very selected, different stores, and I guess that's where I can leave it at the moment. But we sell. When I do an ad for any of our books, I'll say, available on Amazon.com, Amazon.uk, RDG Books Press, RDG Books United Kingdom. There's plenty of places where you can pick up this book. What's really important, this is a great book, check it out, and this is why it's a great book, and this is why you ought to check it out. That's the super simple general idea. Did that make a lick of sense, or is it a bunch of gibberish?
That's fine.
Okay.
So you said you've worked a little bit with traditional publishers. What in your lifetime work experience, and everything? What do you think? Where do you think traditional publishers have missed the boat? Where have they either missed an opportunity, or what do they have wrong in this new publishing age? Do you think?
This will be mostly my opinion. I've never walked into Penguin Random House. I don't know anything about their interior operations, But as a matter of opinion, I think traditional publishing has made a number of mistakes that may hurt them in the long run. One thing is ignoring the indie writers. That's a very foolish mistake because I can easily name 5 indie writers off the top of my head that are as good as any writer you've ever heard of. They're outstanding, super powerful writers. Janelle Sheikey, Steve Stark, Molly McCobb. There's a couple right there. These are the stars of the future, and they have nothing to do with my press. These are indie writers who are just freaking awesome. And as far as I know, the Big Five don't know they exist, and they don't care. That's a mistake. Another thing I think is a mistake, the Big Five have been around for a very long time. You know as well as I do, 30 years ago, the marketing that we did, the way we ran businesses, radio ads, television commercials, cable TV, newspaper ads, magazine ads. Well, at their time, they were all the rage. They were wonderful, and they could be successful. Sticking to those old, outdated operational methods and trying to make them work in today's fast-paced, high-tech. I can say something on Twitter, and it's on Facebook in less than a minute. 50 other people have said it elsewhere. In this day and age, those old-fashioned, slow-moving operational procedures are going to kill you. I've been told that in the Big Five or similar-sized companies, look at what a writer has to go through. You got to go through all this seeking an agent thing, then you get the honor and the privilege of paying that agent 15% of everything you make. And the agent does, as far as I know, the task of presenting your work to editors in these houses. The editors can take a look or not take a look. That's entirely up to them. If they take a look, then they have to sell it to their bosses and get their bosses interested in it. They get interested in it, and that goes through several different channels. And maybe they decide, yeah, okay, we'll give this writer a chance. So they contact the writer, and the writer hasn't got a clue. Well, I take that back. A lot of writers don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And I won't speak about what kind of deals they get in their contracts because that's none of my business. If you're extremely lucky, the house will offer you an advance. An advance is not payment. You're not making any money at all. An advance is a loan. You don't see a dime of your royalties until you match that advance. So in effect, you're borrowing money and paying it back with your royalties. You're not getting paid anything. The only way you get paid anything is if your book dies, it never makes any money and you never match your advance. Okay, then what you didn't match is something like a payment. I don't do advances at all in my press. I pay the author cash money in their pocket, not attached to anything. It is payment plus our exceptional royalty. I set that up for that reason because I don't really like the concept of advance. And I think that the big five are using those because 50 years ago, that was a wonderful, fantastic thing. Today, it's not so fantastic. And I think the big companies are risking falling behind because they're not keeping up with what's going on today and what opportunities exist. So there's my 2 cents about big giant publishers. One thing I really don't like because I'm 61 years old. If you come to a small press, you're likely to get published from hello to on the shelf, in about 2 years. In some cases, 1 year. You go to the big five, I've heard it takes 7 years, and that's if you're lucky. And, indie authors, gee whiz, all that work, and you may not make a dime. 1% of the big five authors actually make money. All the rest never make money. The houses know that, and they bet on the Stephen Kings who come along. These 50 books didn't make a dime. We lost a bundle. Thank God Stephen King is here because he just made us a fortune to cover all these losses and still keep a roof over our head. That's kind of an antiquated way of doing business, but there are better ways. And I think that the big traditional publishers need to take a look at that because indie writers and small presses, we're coming. We're growing. We're having a lot of success. And one day, maybe not tomorrow, indie writers and small presses will be serious competition for the bigger houses. And I don't think
in some respects they are now.
Perhaps so. I try to limit what I say because I hate to say what I don't know. I try to be careful.
You have a lot of people like the Brandon Sandersons of the world, and granted, that's a really small group of people, but who are saying, I don't need, just because of what you said, right? I don't need a, Bantam to tell me what to do. I can do all that, and I have to do all that anyway. So I may as well do it for myself and make all the money myself, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think in a way but you still do have people out there who, if you say you're indie published, will kind of give you that, oh, that's nice for you, oh, that's nice.
Well, to me, that could easily be an arrogant person who doesn't freaking know anything about what you're saying. And in that case, disregard their opinion. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because there's always somebody who wants to talk down their nose at you. You're not good enough because you're indie. Bullshit. Some of the best writers I know are indie writers, So don't take everything that people say. A lot of it's crap. You don't let that sink in because it'll just depress you, And also, I've had this in many different areas of my life. The big bad guy at the top is actually freaking scared of you, and he's going to try to get you to stay at the bottom. And the best way he can do that is be condescending and belittle you and make you doubt yourself. Because if you're doubting yourself, you're not performing at 100%. And he don't want you performing at 100% because he knows you're coming. So don't let anybody talk down to you. I'm sorry, I'm emotionally involved in that subject.
No, good. That, if I was looking for someone to publish a book, I want someone who is emotionally involved in it. I don't want someone who doesn't care.
So, Rod, it's 13 days into the new year. So, do you have favorite books from last year that you've read?
Oh, there's quite a few that I absolutely loved. Anything by Janelle Sheikey. I've read her first three books, Ghost Room, Death Cult, and The Clatterman. Freaking love them. They're fantastic. She's a very fun, and her books are like watching an 80s horror movie. They're freaking awesome. You can't help but have fun reading those. Molly McCobb. I read Dark Bloom, a very surprising post-apocalyptic story that isn't what you expect and is a beautiful roller coaster of emotions. And I'm a firm believer that a writer should reach out and grab the emotions of the reader, because when you walk away from a book, you don't really remember the words or the paragraphs. You remember how that book makes you feel. You might still be feeling mad, sad, happy, or glad a month later because of that book, if the writer did his job. And Molly McCobb kills it. Steve Stark is a British writer who is absolutely killing it. Violent Ends and A Hot Dose of Hell. Some of the best stories I've ever read. They're very true to who he is and where he came from. Gripping stories. I mean, wow. And these are indie authors I'm talking about. These are people that a number of years from now, they'll be household names just like a lot of the big guys we have now. And they don't have any need for the big five at all. They are doing very, very well. I don't know all their finances. I'm not their accountant, but I've got enough experience to kind of track where they are and what's going on and their advertising and their sales, put two and two together and get a pretty good picture, sort of like I was looking at a company I was thinking of buying. So I can look at it that way and see that these guys are on the right track and they're doing fantastic. And everything I just said could be said about, I'm not going to say every member because I don't know every member, but there's a lot of members of this thing called the Dark Veil Society. They're just a bunch of friends helping each other. But man, there are some great writers in that group. And these guys are going to be a force to reckon with in the publishing industry as a whole. It's just a matter of time. And I really believe in them. I hope they believe in me. Of course, my door is wide open. But yeah, the big guys, they need to be aware of what's coming up behind them, or they won't be prepared to deal with it.
Well, they've had time to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's sweet. Personally, I don't want them to figure it out. It's all good.
Well, the least innovative person is the one who thinks he already knows everything. If you're convinced you know it, you're not learning. If you're not learning, you're falling behind. That's why I say I know 1% of what I need to know, because every single week I spend a number of hours studying. I study marketing. I study editing. I'm a good editor, but I keep studying editing because I want to be a great editor. I study all the time in a bunch of different areas. I love to learn. And at least at this point in my life, I still have the capacity to learn. And I hope I'll do that the rest of my life, But the most foolish man I ever met knew everything. And he really just backs himself into a corner by believing that.
Yeah. Well, Mike and I don't know everything, but we do know that we have a change in schedule. Tomorrow night at 7, we're going to do something new. We are going to do a random writing sprint. So if you join us at 7, we'll pull up the random generators. We'll find out what genre we're going to write in. We'll pull up a random phrase, and then we will write together for 30 minutes, and we'll see how that goes. And if it's something that fun and people enjoy it, we will probably do it on a regular basis, if not weekly, every other week, something like that.
Oh, it sounds like a game I've played for many years. You're going to have a lot of fun. That's a very fun project. And this little game that I played, either one of the three of us would give to the other 2 characters, as different as possible. And the game is, every writer, before you work with editors, before you work with beta readers, before you type 80,000 words, a real writer has to be a good storyteller. So on the spot, spur of the moment, you're given two characters. Tell us a story. Tell us enough that we could sit down at our computer and write that story based on this little bit that you gave us. Create a story. And that's a fun game, but it's also a fantastic exercise for writers. It gets your head working because it's not planned. You don't know anything about it in advance. You know what I mean? Like, Ro, if I said to you, a cop and a prostitute, tell me a story. You know, it really makes
just
you
read any EL book.
You know, if I said fireman and nurse, you know, you instantly got to get your creativity clicking. You know, this is something, and people know I don't dig it. This is something the Tin Man can't do. The Tin Man doesn't have that creativity, but a good writer can tell a story, and it doesn't have to be, you know, Stephen King. It doesn't have to be Poe. It doesn't have to be, you know, Dickens. Well, you're creating a concept of a story. It's not going to be perfect, but it doesn't have to be. You know, you just create this concept, and then I've done this. This is how I write. I'm a 100% pantser. I'll get an idea. Sometimes I'm walking to the coffee pot and an idea will drop in my head. I'll just kind of ponder that for a few minutes, and a concept will develop. I sit down and start writing, and I can write a story based just on that. But I am a pantser. I don't need an outline. You know.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of the random writing prompt, right? Is it and the 30-minute timeline is it's just an exercise. It's just you know, trying to get that muscle memory down a little bit.
When is your first show?
Tomorrow night at 7.
I'm going to do everything I can to be in the audience. I can't wait to see it because I think you're going to have a ball doing that. It's a lot of fun.
I'm hoping it'll be good. I mean, I do it for my Substack, so I thought we'd just, you know, pull it over and do it with other folks. After that, we are here on the 17th. What day is that? Sunday?
Saturday.
Saturday with Andrew Johnson. Why are we doing a Saturday?
Because he's only available on Saturday.
Oh, lucky him. Okay. And then next Tuesday with JD Blackrose.
Yes.
Should that sound familiar to me?
I did an event with her in December with her and James Maxey. She has one of the best opening lines of any book ever. The book is called A Wrinkle in Crime. It's about a zombie cosmetologist in LA who does the makeup for all of the big stars in Hollywood. And the first sentence says, "I couldn't find my penis."
Okay. All right. I can't wait for Tuesday.
Wow, that reminds me of a book I saw a while back. It's still on my.
I don't know if you want to continue with this thought, Rod. Just
I got to say it. It's the craziest title I've ever seen. I don't know how it got published. Have you ever heard of a book called The Haunted Vagina?
I have not.
No.
That's the title of the book. I was so freaked out. I was like, wow. So, yeah, I hope somebody comes up with something like that because it's very creative and very catchy and very, what the hell is that? And if you can get your audience to, what the hell is that? That's actually a good thing, you know?
Okay, that is a good place to leave it, I think. All right.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Yep. Thanks for joining us, and we will hopefully see you tomorrow night. Rod, thank you very much. Good luck with RDG Books Press. And hopefully, you know, we're coming back in a couple of years and you're an enormous success and you've got the next Harry Potter on your hands.
Maybe. Thank you for having a little nobody like me on your show. Mike, I've spoke with you before. It's always a blast. You're awesome. Fantastic. I love your sense of humor. You guys must have seen in this show. I don't have a lot of humor, but Mike, you're awesome. You could do like stand-up, man.
Well, if you like the sense of humor, you can always buy my book.
I've already got your book. It's already here. I'm going to read it.
I can get rid of that background. All right. And if you're interested in signing up for IBOR, go to the link there and you can find it in the chat.
You may be judged by Ro or I. And if that doesn't scare you off.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye bye.
See ya.